Today, we're looking at a moment in history that was full of confusion, moral questioning, and death. A machine gun ripped through the crowd. So many dead bodies laid in a ditch, and some children only survived because other people died on top of them. A soldier said that he saw a baby crawling away from the pile, and he shot the baby because he was supposed to. Children slaughtered, mothers killed, fathers murdered, and families decimated. This is the case of the My Lai massacre. Hello and welcome to the Unessay podcast. In this show, we uncover history and delve into its most tragic events to help us understand why what happened and how it shaped us as a society today. I'm your host Will, and today we will be covering one of the most tragic events to happen in American history, the My Lai massacre. This is a story about a war that divided a country into two, not only physically but socioeconomically too. It's a story about the soldiers that got pushed to do things they didn't want to do and families that got torn apart. Today we'll walk through the events that led to the massacre, how it affected America, how it affected Vietnam, and how that can be seen in a global perspective. To fully understand the events that took place in the small village of My Lai, we need to go back in time to the 1960s. So picture this, it's 1968 and the military is occupying Vietnam. It's been there for a while and everybody knows about it, except now, politically and socially, it feels like the bubble is about to burst, and at this point, everything is at its breaking point. 500,000 American troops are spread out all over Vietnam. And at home, anti-war protests are happening and people are starting to lose trust in the American government. Every single night, graphic images and videos of burning buildings, dead people, and body bags are displayed on family TVs. So before the massacre, there was an event called the Tet Offensive. For context, Tet, spelled T-E-T, is the Vietnamese Lunar New Year celebration. So this holiday is when families are supposed to come together to spend quality time together, share food, and celebrate the new year. To put into perspective how important this holiday is, it's almost the equivalent of Christmas. During the Tet Offensive, the Northern Communist Vietnamese government and the Viet Cong launched over 100 attacks across cities in southern Vietnam. It took a while for US forces to regain control, but it left irreparable damage. Americans at this point had promised that the war was almost won, but this just proved otherwise. The government was shook, the military was shook, the people were shook. US soldiers were fighting an enemy they barely knew. The Viet Cong people literally blended into common society. That's how they remained hidden. They could be a farmer, they could be a mother carrying a baby that actually turns out to be ammunition. And that ammunition could be used to kill her because the Viet Cong forced people to do things for them against their will. So the pink zone is this area around My Lai that was called that because a lot of American troops had died around there. And so basically, before this happened, an American troop called the Charlie Company was killed. Members of the company had been killed by landmines put around My Lai. And so this made the American troops very mad. Coming from this anger came an order, and that was to go to My Lai and kill all of the Viet Cong. Except the thing about it is that there were no Viet Cong in My Lai. The people of My Lai were not fighters. So in the early evening of March 15th, 1968, William Calley and the rest of the Charlie Company received a message. They were told that the 48th Viet Cong Battalion was in My Lai. They were told that the people of My Lai were either Viet Cong or Viet Cong sympathizers. They were told to destroy the village. And this sparked a lot of different thoughts in the Charlie Company. So some people were like, why didn't they just kill them first, using airplanes and stuff? And then other people took this as permission to kill everything that moved. I mean everything. Babies, dogs, cats, fish, everything. Nevertheless, they checked their weapons, they loaded their gun, they cleaned their M16s, and they joked, before they went and killed everybody. Mind you, they did not know they were about to commit one of the worst atrocities in American history. So to fully understand the My Lai massacre, you need to understand who Lieutenant William Calley Jr. was. Sure, we all know he was involved with the My Lai massacre, but who was he before that? He wasn't like the super combat leader kind of person that you would expect. He was a 24-year-old junior officer, and he was often described as timid and shy, or even insecure. It was said that he struggled in school a lot, and it's said that he went through many jobs like being a busboy and a dishwasher. At officer candidate school, he barely passed. His instructor said that he lacked a lot of qualities that good leaders had, like decision making. Really funny that they say that because he made a very bad decision the day of the My Lai massacre. Looking back, it becomes pretty clear that he was not the right leader for this group, and obviously they did not make good decisions at all. And so we need to go back into the My Lai massacre because when they went into the village, they rounded up the villagers, okay? They didn't reassess the situation. They did not find any Viet Cong people because there were none. And he didn't even question the faulty intelligence. Instead, they just rounded them up in a group and executed all of them. So they rounded up all 70 villagers in an irrigation ditch, and he said, kill them. You know what to do. Fire. Some of the soldiers hesitated, and others did it immediately. Others shot on the spot. And the majority of the soldiers followed out of loyalty. They didn't know what they were doing. They did not know who they were killing. And I'm not even sure they knew exactly who they were following. William Calley himself was firing into the ditch, and the only reason he stopped was because his weapon jammed. That's the only reason. Not that he was killing innocent families, slaughtering children and mothers and fathers, but it was that his gun jammed. That ditch, full of blood and dead bodies, became one of the most horrifying symbols of My Lai. And to this day, it's still known as that bloody ditch. So when the story of this massacre broke out in 1969, everyone was stunned, too stunned to speak. Photographs of slaughtered people were shown to the public. And William Calley Jr., who was once known as just an officer, became the face of the My Lai massacre. So the US Army actually charged 14 officers for the crimes, but almost all of the charges quietly disappeared. Calley alone was convicted. In 1971, Calley was found guilty of the premeditated murder of 22 Vietnamese civilians. He was sentenced to life, but the story don't end there. So a lot of people actually looked past Calley and blamed the higher ranking officers for Calley's mistakes. They said that he was just a scapegoat and that the higher officers actually used him as a way to get past what they were doing. A lot of people used the argument that he was just following direct orders. The political pressure was so much that President Nixon personally intervened. In the end, Calley only served 3.5 years, not in prison, but in a comfortable house in Georgia. Many people in the world saw this as an insult to the victims of the My Lai massacre. To others, it felt like justice for Calley because they think that he was blamed for the entire war's mistake. Calley's trial remains one of the most controversial trials in American history. In the American education system, the Vietnam War comes up quite a lot. And in most instances, most of the content that's discussed is regarding how the Vietnam War affected Americans and how it affected America rather than how it affected Vietnam. This podcast covered the My Lai massacre specifically, but there are so many events that happened that were just like that during the Vietnam War. The My Lai massacre was not the only time innocent civilians were killed. So as I close out this podcast, I want you to remember the massacre, the dead people, William Calley, his soldiers, how they blindly followed orders, and how they were okay killing like a baby. Think about what it truly represents. It's not just a group of soldiers that made bad decisions. It's a reminder of how fragile morality can be detrimental, especially in wartime. How doing things without not really knowing what you're doing isn't brave. It's just terrible. Nowadays, when people think about the Vietnam War, all they think about is how so many American soldiers died for nothing. How we didn't win the war, and how there were so many deaths only for the communist side to win. And that is the case of the My Lai massacre. I'm your host, Will, and thank you for joining me on today's episode.